Welcome to episode 16 of Thrashcast. My name is Billy, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Jim and Ken. How you guys doing tonight?
Good, very good.
Awesome.
Good, good. As you can see, I'm back home after some traveling, so that's kind of cool. I actually have a comfortable seat here, so that's all good. Let's start with some housekeeping items, if we could here. So, Thrashcast, of course, you can find us at www.horrormetalsounds.com and then on YouTube at Horror Metal Sounds at keng.2864. And perhaps a quick request, if I may. If you guys enjoy the content on the channel, please consider subscribing. It's certainly free, and it'll show up in your feed, and you won't miss a future episode. And of course, on our end, it'll help our channel grow as well. So, all good things to get the metal word out there. So, on to the topic today. As we noted last week, we're covering Death Angel. We have a great album, the first album from 1987, the Ultraviolence. And we're also ranking the Death Angel discography, which includes 9 albums. So before we dive into Death Angel, as always, we're going to hit our what's spinning and latest news segment. I think we got a couple things between the three of us. Jim, do you want to kick us off this week?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of news. I know, Billy, I think you brought it up a few episodes ago about the Annihilator pay-per-view, I guess you could call it, show, which is really cool, happening this Saturday on the 29th. Check it online to your time zone. I know here in Atlantic Canada, I'm on Atlantic time, so it's starting at 4 p.m. Atlantic, which is 3 p.m. Eastern for a lot, for you guys up in Ontario. It's going to be what is it, the 40th anniversary of Alice in Hell?
I think it's 40 years, yeah.
35 or 40, I forget.
Oh man, this is going to be awesome. But from what I've seen, and it's $20 American a ticket, which is really cool, really affordable. You sign up, it's going to be no repeat. I'm hoping eventually maybe they come out with something like a DVD or something, but it's going to be 100 minutes of the whole album played, I believe, in its entirety, plus hits, plus all kinds of other stuff thrown in as well. So I know they've been rehearsing, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff on their website. This is going to be awesome. I'm buying a ticket, and I'm going to be tuning in. I kind of wish I'd be able to save it, but apparently it's going to be a one-shot deal. You're going to watch it. It's all going to go out at the same time, and that's about it. So, I think this is pretty cool. And kind of to back on that, Death Angel kind of did something like that during COVID with the Bastard tracks.
Yeah, that's right.
So they did one of those as a live portion where they played, and they did that as well. So it kind of ties into this pretty nicely. But anyways, I think it's a great chance to really support Annihilator, and I think I think this is just going to be awesome. And I think it's going to do really well, just judging from like all the comments you see online and that. And these guys are going to pull it off. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. Yeah, the only negative I have, because I usually do all those live streams, and usually you can replay it for like a month or 2 months, right? So like if you're not there at that exact time and you miss
You
parts
miss
of
out.
it, you're just stuck, right?
Yeah.
So well,
I know. I
better
was
to
kind
have
of
it.
like, I wish I could, once you got because I'm actually gonna leave work early to get home to watch it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
but it's like, okay, but I've set it up so nothing can go wrong. But watch something go wrong, and anyways, I'll be in my car with my phone.
Oh my God.
But that's all I got, guys.
Okay. There was a cool one a while back, also like the pandemic or coming out of the pandemic, where Voivod did 2 of them, like
Ah,
2 days in a row, and they did the entire Nothing Face album.
Oh,
and
wicked.
they did the entire the previous album as well. Not
Dimension
long,
Hatros.
yeah, Dimension Hatros, yeah, and they had
Wicked.
interviews with the band. They did a really good job. So if Annihilator does a half as good of a job, it'll be great.
Awesome.
Cool.
Cool. Anything else on your end, Jim? That's it?
No, that's it, guys.
Okay. Ken, anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, I have one news item for this week
Okay.
from a band that I just recently found out called Dune. They're from Saudi Arabia, which is kind of an interesting place
Mm.
for to find thrash metal, I guess thrash metal, groove metal. They're putting out a 4-song EP called The Years of Chains, which came out on May 31st. So it's out. It's an independent release, so you can't get it from a label or anything like that. But I did see it on Spotify and YouTube, so you can check it out if you got a chance to do that. They sort of sound like a little bit of the Testament, a little bit of Death Angel, a little bit of Sepultura. Pretty good stuff. You can check out a song called Reject, which is on YouTube. I liked it. Pretty solid stuff. So I thought I'd note that. But that was the only thing I had this week. Just
Okay.
one news item.
One thing, so you told me about that earlier today, Ken. You mentioned it to Jim and I, and just by total coincidence, I was looking at the set list for Wacken that's coming up
Mhm.
here. And they do the metal battle. So like every country from around the world holds a battle of their local unsigned
Yeah.
bands and the winner of each
Mhm.
country. So
Yep.
like Saudi Arabia actually was a country participating this year. So
Yeah,
they
that's
would
cool.
Nice.
have had a whole like round of bands competing against each other. So the band wasn't Dune. I thought maybe it would be, but it was a different band. I forget the name, but
I think this band is just starting out. So
okay.
from what I can see, I think they just formed in 2022. So they're relatively new.
Yeah.
But you might hear more from them down the road. You don't know.
But that's
But
pretty
there are
cool.
some
Saudi
bands.
Arabia. That's
Yeah,
I guess a
yeah.
metal scene emerging.
Well, like in India, there's you guys know the band Cryptos. They're
Hmm.
really
Yes,
good.
yes.
I love those guys. Those guys are fantastic.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there are some bands or Akrasa Kruda from I believe somewhere in the Middle East. They're pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a few. You get a few.
Yeah,
So
no. Yeah. Well, no, I think it's great.
Same
yeah,
with
I
me.
do too. I do too. I like hearing bands from other countries that that you wouldn't expect that, but I thought it was kind of neat. Saudi Arabia, so
All right, cool.
Yeah,
So
metal has no borders.
very
yeah.
true. Very true.
And like Banger TV did like one of their documentaries, right?
That's right.
Global Metal that
Yes,
went to all. They were in like I think maybe even Saudi Arabia
it
Yeah.
was
or the
Heavy Metal
Emirates
in
or
Baghdad was the name of it. They did
Yeah.
the documentary.
oh, okay.
Really good documentary.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. So first thing I got what's spinning. And so this is a criminally underrated and unknown band from Canada. I guess I'll classify them as I think technical thrash is probably a good description. From 1989, it's a band
Oh,
called
Dyoxen.
Dyoxen.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
album's called First Among Equals.
Yep.
So yeah, just unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find. I don't think there's been any reissues along the way, but like it's pretty unique, right? Like it's definitely technical thrash on the music side, but still really catchy and melodic. And like I personally think it's as good as anything like any of the main thrash bands were doing in the '80s. It just never got picked up. Like musically, not vocally, but musically, it often gets compared to P Cells of Megadeth. It's that kind of same style.
Mhm.
So yeah, check it out if you can find a copy of it. And then in terms of an announcement, I was pretty excited to see this today. It popped up on the Exodus page, the Zetro page, and so it was on my feed like Gary Holt like about 10 times. But Exodus are going out on tour, their first headlining tour in ages, actually. They've always been opening. But they have some pretty cool bands opening for them. Havoc, and the crossover thrash band Dead Heat, and a band Candy, which I don't know at all or never heard of
Mhm.
it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to hit US and Canada, right through Canada, which is a little bit rare, ex Eastern Canada, in November and December. And so this is the interesting part that I haven't been able to find an answer. So the name of the tour is called North American Disaster Battle of 24.
Mhm.
Which is essentially the live album that they released a week or two ago, which is recorded in London back in '89
Yep.
during the Fabulous Disaster Tour, which we already covered and all loved. And so the tour announcement uses the same background as this. So does that mean they're actually going to play like this set list? Because that would be pretty damn awesome. Because it's going to be 19, like Fabulous Disaster, and anything before it, nothing after it. And I know there's good material after Fabulous Disaster, but the chance to hear an entire set list of like the first like three albums would be pretty damn cool. So, but I don't know if that's the case. But then why else use the cover of this album and name the tour the same thing?
Well, I
Yeah,
think
I think it is.
you know what it could be. It's just because it's the new thing that got out now. Maybe
Yeah,
they're trying
maybe.
to
Yeah,
promote that. I would think, but
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, in '89, that was the headline tour, I believe. So,
yes.
I mean, I know it was only their stuff up till then, but I could see that happening because they're like so many bands are doing these sort of revival tours with the older stuff. So I think that
yeah.
would be wicked.
Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be crazy to assume that they
Oh,
would play just those first three landmark albums.
yeah.
I would love it. That'd be awesome.
That'd
Yeah.
be awesome.
But again, I don't know. I guess we'll find
We'll
out
find
soon
out.
enough. Yeah, exactly. Once the
Yeah.
first show happens. Okay, cool. So that covers news items and what's spinning. So on to Death Angel. So starting with a quick bio. Death Angel again is pretty popular, so they don't need a huge introduction. But of course, very popular in the '80s and early '90s in the peak thrash scene. I think it was kind of interesting that Kirk Hammett of Metallica produced their early demo "Kill As One."
Yeah.
That sort of helped them get going. The band released three like well-received, successful albums: "The Ultraviolence," which we're talking about tonight, "Frolic Through the Park," and "Act Three" during the late '80s, early '90s. And then, unfortunately, of course, there was a touring accident, not as fatal as Metallica, of course, but the Death Angel tour van crashed, and the drummer Andy Gallion had a fairly major injury that was going to take at least a year to get better. And there was some talk that vocalist Mark was going to go back to school. But long story short, they ended up like basically taking a 10 years off, coming back in 2001. And so ultimately they ended up with like nine studio albums. They're very well known for trying new things, not being afraid to, and that'll come up in their discography, especially in the early days, to challenge the audience with new styles of music, and especially when compared to the album we're talking about today. And in terms of lineup, I mean the lots of a fair amount of lineup change. I mean the album, the Ultraviolence, consisted of Rob Cavastani on lead guitars, Dennis Peppa on bass, who was actually the originally the lead singer for the band before Mark joined.
Mhm.
Gus Peppa on guitar as well, Andy Gallion, as I mentioned, on drums, and then of course Mark Osa Guido on vocals. And so that was the lineup for the Ultraviolence. But fast forward to today, you still got Mark on vocals, and you could argue he's technically not an OG member, but he's pretty close. And Rob Castavani's really the OG member. But then you got Ted Aguilar on rhythm guitar, Will Carroll nowadays on drums, and Damian Sisson on bass. So really one, arguably two original members. Band continues to do well, tour. I think the only thing to note here, and it's a fortunate thing, but Death Angel was out with Testament and Exodus right as COVID hit in Europe before anyone really knew what happened. And a lot of the band members got sick, but nobody more than Death Angel's Will Carroll, who was basically on a ventilator helping him breathe for like 2 weeks, trying to recover from COVID. So we could have lost him at that point. He's fortunately fully recovered, and the band's back on the go. Anything you guys want to add that I missed?
Well,
no, I think he got it all.
you know, Andy Gallion, 14 years old when they did this
Yeah, at the
album.
time, yeah.
I mean, like, he couldn't even, like, 14, I can't even fathom it. And the drums on this album sound so friggin' good. But I mean, you know, they're playing in clubs he probably wasn't even technically allowed to be in.
No. Well, I'm sure he wasn't the only one, right? The
Yeah.
other guys at
We're all
Ultraviolence,
young.
They're all
I think,
under
were
20.
like 16, 17, or
Yeah, they're all under 20 when
Yeah.
they recorded the album.
Wow.
And you have to understand that Andy also was involved in the mixing and production of the album as well. So
Exactly.
a 14-year-old kid is actually helping to mix the album. That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy to think about that. 14 years old. And he joined the band when he was 10. He was 10 years old when he became a member of the band.
Can you
That's how
imagine?
crazy that is.
Yeah.
You know,
I
he's
never
bringing-
thought
he's
to
bringing
look
his
it
lunch.
up.
He's
Do you
bringing
guys
his
know
lunch
what
to this-
Andy's doing now?
Andy's part of a new band. He just joined Steve Smith From Hell band. From
Yeah.
Hell. It's like their death thrash.
Okay.
And he just joined this year as their drummer. So
No, interesting. So he's still playing.
he's still playing. He has another side project that I can't remember the name of at the moment, but yeah, he just joined From Hell at the beginning of the year, so we'll see what that happens. From Hell's not bad. They're like a death thrash. If you like Steve Smith's guitars, his guitar playing, it's got a lot of that, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Did we cut you off, Jim? Were you going to say something? Or?
No, I was just joking. I said he showed up to band practice with a Scooby-Doo lunchbox, you know, back when he was 10.
Maybe he did.
Yeah, but it didn't become a staple of the show like with AC/DC
Yeah.
and the school outfit.
That's right.
Very true.
All right. So yeah, so I came up with a couple questions for you guys related to Death Angel, the Death Angel career, a bit of what if and a bit of speculation even mixed in here. But let's begin with the first Death Angel question. So I think I kind of mentioned it in the bio, but certainly made a big impact on the thrash scene right in the prime period, 87 to 91. So, in your view, what separated Death Angel from the rest of the pack? So maybe Ken, we'll start with you on this question.
Sure. Well, I'll start with three words: youth, exuberance, and ferocity. So they had that going for them. You have to understand that this was a tight-knit Filipino family. They're all related. They're all young kids around the same age. So they're all kind of, I guess, entering their development stage at the right time when they started out with this band. So that has a lot to do with it. So they don't sound like a lot of other bands from the Bay Area, although when we're talking later on tonight, I will point out some things that I've noticed that have references to other thrash bands from the time. But I think, to me, the fact that they're all under 20 when they recorded the album, and then, as you just mentioned, Andy being like 14, that's insane. Like, that kind of maturity on an album like this. So I think it does set them apart. For me, I think it's a lot of the youthful exuberance is what I would say makes them so unique for the time.
How about you, Jim?
Oh yeah, I agree totally with Ken. Hunger, you know, these guys seem to come from just nowhere. Like, boom, they just hit the scene. And you think about the time, so 87, but really, Act 3 and 90, our favorite thrash bands, some of them at the time are already changing. They were on their third or fourth albums. So like Metallica, would be heading into the Black Album, into the 90s. So these guys kind of, for me, brought back that sort of that kill 'em all first thrash vibe, and a lot of albums, a lot of bands did that. Heathen did it. A lot of these bands did that when they sort of came a little few almost kind of catty cornered from the big four to some degree, and they kind of was a bit of a return to that. But what they brought was that sort of that fresh youth sound that was just, I mean, they sounded, what we had heard similar music prior to, so they were from the second wave, but I mean, they were just, I think they came along at the perfect time. And without the accident, I'm sure that's going to be one of your next questions. I mean, what was going to happen? I mean, but just a phenomenal sound, and just for me, it was just fresh again. It was like kind of hearing my favorite album of all time is Kill 'Em All. I've talked about it a million times, but hearing this album was like a return to it, but just with a little bit better production, because it was a little bit more in the future. I mean, they were already working on, they already had 3 albums out by then, so going on to their 4th album. So I think that's what it brought for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. And so when I think of that period, essentially 3 albums that came out, I think the main thing for me is like their ability to take a chance of doing different
Yeah.
types of music, right? I mean, you think we go from the ultraviolence, which is like a complete, like 150% thrash attack. And then it's pretty ballsy to come out with Frolic Through the Park, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's definitely, like, yeah, that's not the normal trend. It's a bit like when we talked about Slayer, right? How did they follow up Rain and Blood? Not with like Rain and Blood Part 2.
No.
Like, not that this is like, South of Heaven, but they actually went a different direction. It wasn't all about the speed. It was bringing in the funk and all kinds of different music variety, slow, much slower album. So yeah, that's how I kind of remember them. And then you got ballads along the way, and amazing ballads too, right? Like it's so yeah, for me it was just the ability to not be scared to do something different. And that's even magnified for kids, right? Like you would think at that young age you wouldn't quite have the the chops yet to experiment and do different things, but because they still would have been successful to do Ultraviolence Part 2, but they
Oh
chose
yeah.
not to.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Okay, so yeah, so thinking about the what if if we didn't have the bus accident and the band continued, so then we would have had Ultraviolence, we would have had Frolic Through the Park, we would have had Act 3, we're like 91, maybe a new album 92, 93. What do you guys think would have been next for the band? Ken, let's start with you.
You know what? This is funny, but I think what they did after the breakup is where they would have went, I think, naturally anyways. I don't think the breakup was, and it's not even a breakup. They just took a break to figure things out.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe even if they kept all the music under the Death Angel moniker, it would have been the same thing. I think the organization, which we'll probably discuss a little bit later, what they did, even with the Swarm later on when they came back to the Swarm, everything they've done makes sense. So I don't think it doesn't matter. I think they would have went into like the alternative funk, rock, alternative metal. That all would have came anyways naturally because there's elements on the first album where you could hear. You heard in the second album. You hear a little bits on the third album. So it's just a natural progression. So I don't think it would have made a difference, to be honest.
Cool, Jim.
I think it would have been cool. I mean, so many bands go through so many changes. I mean, you think of death metal band Death, and where it was going up until Chuck's death, it was changing and morphing into something else. I think this would have as well, especially with Act 3. I mean, Act 3 became like I think in some ways like death metal and thrash metal saved heavy metal in the 90s. That's the way I think. I think that the bands got, grunge didn't kill metal. The hair metal movement just became too oversaturated, and they started cannibalizing each other to the point where nobody wanted to hear it anymore. Death metal, and I mean, I know these guys after 90 didn't put anything out for almost, for over 10 years, but it kind of pushed everything a little bit more underground, and I thought things got really interesting. I think it would have been, I would have loved to hear what they would have done right after Act 3, because I mean, I know Killing Season came out in 2000 or The Art of Dying in 2004. And that's a killer album. So I understand there's a big gap there and times have changed in that, but I really think they would have come out with something. I think they would have rebounded back in like 91, 92 with something a little bit more heavier like the first album, and incorporate bits of all three of those albums together. That's what I would have thought they would have come out with. And then kind of every 2 years, maybe after that, they were, pumping out an album right up until where they kind of started again. That would have been amazing. I mean, yeah, would have they changed a little bit? Absolutely, because the whole everything was changing at that point, as well as a lot of these bands, like in the Teutonic Four, the bands that we've talked about through the 90s, they changed a little bit. We had Creator change a little bit, Sodom changed a little bit, and I think these guys would have too, but I think they would have been, I mean, their best-selling album was, to that point, was Act 3, and that was somewhat commercially successful for them. So I think they probably, the pushback of heavy metal to some degree, maybe pushing them a little bit more under, I think they would have gone back to more heavier roots for their next album.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know for sure, right? Like, I guess I view it as three ways, like what you said, Jim, to go back heavier, or exactly what Ken said, right? To continue the progression and along the lines of the organization, because that was the majority of the band members, right? Or to go to the way of Metallica, right, and try to do a complete like mainstream like black type album. But I kind of fall in Ken's camp on this one. I actually think they would have followed along with the organization, and we would have gotten more industrial, more alt rock, and I wouldn't have been surprised to hear some like grunge and all the influences of the day in the music. But again, we'll never know. But it's kind of fun to wonder and think about it.
But I also think too, like, I also think the name compared to, like, I mean, Metallica was synonymous with thrash, and when they came out with the Black Album, it was such a night and day thing. But here you have a band called Death Angel. It's not. It's a little bit different. Like, people are thinking. I mean, I would assume that if I talk to many people who don't know a lot about the difference between death metal and thrash, probably throw this into the death metal camp because of the name. So I think that's where I get the feeling that I would have thought they probably would have had to stay a little bit heavier. But then the organization, you're right, they could have easily. It's kind of the same thing like with Chuck from Death. He was moving away from that kind of the death metal genre, and had he continued, if obviously he tragically died, but if he continued, what would have we got after that? I mean, it was definitely kind of going to the left a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. So we mentioned the organization, so not to focus too much on it, but for folks who might not be aware, the once the band took the break, everybody except for lead singer Mark formed a band called The Organization, which was also one of the songs too, right, guys, on the first three albums? Yeah. The Organization, and
From
so
Act
they
3.
released. Which one?
Act 3.
Act
It's from
3.
Act 3.
Oh, Act 3. Yeah. Okay. So they released an album, The Organization, in '93, and Savor the Flavor in '95. So, what did you guys enjoy that music?
I thought it was okay. It's more hard rock, some metal, some groove metal. I appreciate it because I like the fact that they're trying something different. But it was all right. I actually like the Swarm, the album that when Rob reformed that when Mark came back to music,
Mm.
they did the Swarm. I thought the Swarm was actually way better for me. They a lot of more melodies. It's more like alternative rock, lots of catchy choruses. I preferred that a lot more, but I don't mind the change. I'm okay with it.
I actually don't know the Swarm, so I guess I'll have to check it. I think I heard of it, but I don't know the music at all.
Yeah, if you're interested, you can look it up on YouTube or I think on Spotify. It's just basically Rob on lead guitar and then of course Mark on vocals and with other members of other musicians. It's more like alternative metal. It's got a more alternative metal flavor to it.
Yeah.
Um, I say check it out. I actually think it's okay. For me personally, I don't mind it. It has a really cool cover for the album they put out. But yeah, and then of course that was the last bit before they went back to doing Death Angel.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it. I'm just curious, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, anything you want to add?
I wasn't that keen on the organization. I thought I don't know. Eh, I, I do like change. I know people probably were on our 60th episode probably saying like, man, that Jim guy, he doesn't like things changing too much. I like lightly tweaking of things. I like to ease into things. I don't like to have things go too left or too right. I like to keep things the way they are to some degree. But I do like the most recent Hate Uber Alice from the Creator album, which was a popular album, got a lot of killer reviews, but also from a lot of steadfast Creator fans. They didn't like it, but I liked it. I thought that the tweaking, the one song there where they had the woman who was singing, I thought that was a great kind of tweak. Again, a tweak, but I don't want a total change.
Yeah, I was lukewarm on it. I didn't mind it, but I wasn't entirely taken by it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't know. I found it a little. I like some industrial stuff too. It's just
mm,
I don't know. It kind of leaned a little bit more to the heavy rock, and
Yeah.
there's just it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit of a cop out because these bands could write heavy rock no problem, but I don't want to necessarily listen to heavy rock.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't have anything. That's exactly my view as well. So I won't be repetitive there. So definitely prefer Death Angel.
Yeah.
So one of the areas that we tend to talk about is the artwork. And so I think there's some pretty cool and very diverse artwork on the Death Angel discography. So I think I keep going to Ken, but first, this is kind of his world, so I'll keep going to Ken on this one. So yeah, just any thoughts on the artwork, and if there were one or two that you want to highlight for
well,
folks listening?
it's kind of funny that we're talking about this because when you put that question, I started thinking about it, and then I realized that the earlier albums, the artwork is not that great. I mean, Ultraviolence is a really good cover. Yeah, Jim's Gallery. Yeah, that cover's good too.
Yeah, I love this cover.
Yeah, that's by a different artist. But the earlier stuff, like the Ultraviolence by Sam Hefner, is pretty good. I like that cover. It's a painting. It's very graphic. It kind of suits. It does suit the songs on the album. But like what they did with like Frolic Through the Park, I didn't really like. It's a photograph. It's kind of stupid looking. I don't even like Act Three. It's like a rough kind of contemporary illustration. I don't really care for it. It's all right, but it's not for me. But you know what's funny though, Billy, when you're mentioning this, the later albums is where they actually developed, where they brought in one artist and he did three of the four albums. The one that Jim was holding up is the only album he didn't do. But Brent Elliott White was responsible for everything that came on the modern sound. So, and what I think is funny is that they actually created like a mascot. If you notice, the last three albums had this prehistoric wolf or prehistoric wolves. So I think it's kind of neat that they've like on the great, not the Great Divide, but on like the Dream Calls for Blood, Relentless Retribution,
And
yeah, the human
Humanicide.
side. It's great. So you can see that they sort of have a progression. I like it. I kind of like it, but I don't like the earlier albums as much. Although I was going to say, not the Art of Dying is okay. I like the other cover for what's the
Evil
other album?
Divide.
No, the earlier one, the album that came after the Killing Season.
Oh,
I love that cover. It's so great.
That's cool.
It's really nicely. It's like a graphic, but it works really well.
hmm.
But yeah, I think the later stuff is actually pretty good.
Yeah, no, I thought so. Like for me, actually, my favorite is the Evil Divide. Like I
Yeah.
love that
Yeah,
like moth thing, right? Like that's actually yeah, like my favorite album cover. And then yeah, I had like I called it the Wolf series or whatever, right? Those three albums
yeah, the
I
Crystal
thought were
Wolf.
all pretty awesome too.
Yeah,
Jim, how about you? Same
Uh,
ones
I
or?
like the Evil Divide is wicked, and
hmm,
what's really cool is my copy, which comes with the DVD, has an actual tattoo with it. So,
nice. That's cool. Yeah,
maybe someday I'll tattoo it on my forehead. But anyways,
sweet.
I want to keep it with my collection. But no, and I mean the ultraviolence. That was the first thing you saw when you went into the record store back in 1987. You picked that up, and you knew this was going to be a thrasher. I mean, the black and white, the destruction. It looks like maybe I don't know. It looks like a nuclear bit of a blast or a bomb went off. The crushed skull. I mean, this thing is awesome, and I
Yeah.
agree. Frolic Through the Park is a terrible cover, and Act Three always kind of made me feel a little bit like Among the Living with the kind of the blurry people in front of the kind of the ghostly. I mean, a great album, but and then the Wolf, the Wolf kind of trilogy that went on towards the end, I thought they were pretty cool too, and it's good that they brought out kind of something like that. But yeah, the Ultraviolence and the Evil Divide are my favorite album covers.
Cool.
So then last question I have for you guys before we jump to the album deep dive. So this is looking forward this time around. So of course, and I think we've talked about it, the Kerry King band. And so of course, Mark is the vocalist in Kerry King. So that's kind of an interesting scenario for Death Angel. Jim, how do you think that'll impact the band's production going forward?
I don't think so. I think I don't know. I mean, Kerry King, they're talking about coming off a tour and then working on a second album and popping it out real quick. So apparently, in the interviews I saw read, uh, some of the material's already written. So I would assume Kerry King probably volumes of stuff left over, maybe even from the Slayer days, where he's just stockpiled whatever he's written, parts of stuff or whatever. So I think it'll be the Kerry King album came on kind of quick, and I think if they're planning to release something in early 2025, it'll be pretty quick. I really hope it doesn't hamper a new Death Angel album. So, because I definitely, but I mean, they've been touring so much. Death Angel, last year toured quite a bit. They've got, I don't think it's going to hamper it too much, and I think it gives Mark a kind of a I mean, a lot of people criticize him on the Kerry King that he's trying to sound like Tom. Yeah, I can see that a bit, but on my flip side of it, I think he's just having fun with it. I think it's a side project that's really cool. It's an all-star studded thrash band, and I think his from what I've read and what I think and what I hope maybe is that his heart is definitely with Death Angel, and I think a lot of the writing and stuff, obviously, in the Kerry King band is going to be done by Kerry King. So, you know, I don't think I think he's there as a singer, maybe a bit of input, whatever. But I think obviously Death Angels is sort of his bread and butter.
Hmm. Anything to add, Ken?
Yeah, you know what? It's a paycheck, right? He's actually
Yeah,
getting probably going to get a good paycheck, so you can't fault him for doing it. He's going to hang out with Kerry King, and whatever you think of Kerry King, that's whatever. But he's a high-profile musician in a certain genre, so why not? So it makes sense. I don't begrudge him for singing in the band. It makes sense to me, but I don't think it's going to hamper Death Angel
yeah,
either. I think they've been very consistent, and even though they haven't put an album since 2019, I mean, so what? I mean, all bands look most modern thrash bands now, like Metallica, Anthrax. It's almost like five an album every 10 years practically now. It's gotten to that point.
Unless
Like,
your name's Overkill.
Yeah.
oh, right. They're the exception to the rule. But for the most part, a lot of these older thrash bands now, they don't making records isn't important anymore. It's they're playing in other projects, they're going on the road touring. So yeah, I don't think it's going to hamper Death Angel.
And good point, Ken, because your favorite band, Anthrax, is classic. We're waiting on this new album.
Yes, we are.
Almost all the members are playing with other bands right now.
Yeah.
And but they are going on tour, I believe, with Testament in Europe.
Yeah.
Chuck Billy said in the Metal Voice interview with Jimmy Kay there that they're heading out, I think, at Christmas time or in the fall. So
like it's November, December dates.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, there's got to be some movement there. We got to get an album out of Anthrax. Not the sidebar, but
No, they're working on it. I know they're working on the album, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not as optimistic as you guys. I mean, this is similar scenario as Gary Holt joining Slayer, and Slayer is obviously bigger than Kerry King is, so it's not exactly the same thing. But I compare Exodus to Death Angel, right? Like both release albums sparingly, but tended to tour like crazy, and that was sort of the bread and butter for the band, right? The touring. So yeah, I don't know. Like I guess we'll find out and see how it goes. Like I would picture Kerry not appreciating Mark telling him, "No, you want to do this tour? I've committed to Death Angel," right? I'm not sure. Like Kerry's not a man, his ego's up there. So yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell. So I just hope it doesn't. I love seeing Death Angel live, and they're like as Jim said, I saw like in the last 2 years, I probably saw them 10 times. I mean, they're every single tour. Like, so that's got to slow down, right? Like, if Kerry's successful, he's going to keep going. A lot of people are going to want to see Kerry because it's the only form, especially if he's going to do some Slayer songs.
Yeah.
The closest thing people will get to Slayer. So, yeah, I think it'll put a tough spot on Mark. Like, it's going to pull him in two different directions, but we'll find out.
But you know what, too, guys, is that who knows if even. I mean, I know probably for the long term, Kerry King's looking for a band to stay together. I'm sure he doesn't want a revolving door of people, but that could happen. I mean, he could go with a different lineup, and who knows? I mean, you don't necessarily want to change the singer, but it could happen. I mean, but I mean, Kerry King's album seems to be doing really, really well, so I would assume he's going to want to do many of these. And and I agree. I really hope he does stick with Death Angel and we really see more of a Death Angel push that would, but I mean, I'm thinking too, if Kerry King's got material already written, I would assume some of this stuff has probably been written quite a while ago or parts of it. So he's probably, and I mean, he's had such a time off between the last Slayer stuff and now that, and it seemed to come on so quick. Like we heard just after Christmas that, or right around Christmas, it's going to be a Kerry King album. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's the name for single and everything just came out super quick. So he seems to have all his ducks in a row for just flying stuff out super quick.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully it all works. So I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay. So time to deep dive. We've said it a few times, Death Angel, the ultraviolence. So we'll do as we always do, track by track. Track number one called Thrashers. Ken, why don't you start?
Yeah, this song's actually pretty good. I mean, like it's a thrash metal. It's like a thrash metal anthem when you think about it. Like, there's a lot of moshing. It's heavy. I don't mind it. There's it's like about a 7-minute riff fest. I don't know if I find all the riffs like really like they're interesting riffs, but there's nothing that really stood out to me as super great. They're just all kind of catchy. They all work well. You get like two really good solos in it, which is what I like about it. There's also kind of I noted like a little bit of a Bonded by Blood vibe to the song. It has that kind of frenetic energy that they had on the first album. So you get a lot of speed, you get a lot of aggression. There's a good tempo change at the 3:30 mark that I kind of liked. Mark has this like grunt, and then it just kicks in, and then you get that chug again. So it kind of works for me. And then there's like a solo in the 5 minute mark that I kind of thought that stood out. But the song overall is pretty good. Pretty basic lyrics. I mean, it's just like we're talking about being in a thrash band, or a thrash metal anthem. So for kids, I understand why this lyric would be written, because it's kind of a trope with a lot of early thrash bands to write about a song about thrashing. But I think it's an okay song as an opening.
Yeah, no, yeah. I actually find this is actually other than the last track, which is kind of a bit of a joke track or whatever.
Yeah.
This is actually my least favorite track.
Okay.
For some reason, for me, like it's not a bad song. I
No.
mean, it's a thrash, like it's a great song, but like there's a lot of great songs on this album, so it's my least favorite. But like a couple things, kind of like to me, this one almost sounds demo-ish compared to the rest. Like it's more raw, like it's not as polished as everything that's going to come. And the other thing, my understanding of this song is Mark's actually not singing. Like this isn't
That's
Mark's
right.
vocals. It's
No,
actually
it's not
Dennis
Mark.
Peppa who's
Yes.
doing the vocals on the entire song. So, because again, if you listen to this track compared to everything else, the vocals sound very different. So I think it's very bizarre that you don't have your lead singer doing the kickoff track. But like I'm not a fan of the vocals here, right? Like you don't
Yeah,
get
I'm
any
not
of the
either.
highs that Mark does. Like the minute we get the evil priest, Mark is singing, right? It's like totally flipped the switch. And then all the songs to come are so much more polished and more refined. So I don't know. For me, again, it's a great song. So I'm nitpicking at stuff. We got to say something about the songs. But yeah, for me, yeah, it's great, but I think it's my least favorite on the album. Jim, your thoughts?
I fucking love it. It's awesome. This is awesome. This is so I have written down Exodus Bonded by Blood meets Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
And it's like it's got a Motor Breath vibe. And I think, and yeah, I know Mark's not singing on it, but I don't care. I think it's amazing. And what I love about it, it's 7 minutes of just thrash euphoria. And I love it because it's basic, and I love Kill 'Em All, and I love the original production on Kill 'Em All. I love the sort of demo sounding production. I always like the muddier sounds on these earlier albums. I mean, it picks up. This track does sound very demo-ish, and I could see it, maybe even have been released as a demo would have been really cool. I mean, they didn't really do those things back then, but this, I just love it. I think it's a great track to start it off. The directional changes, like at 3:30, 3:40, where Ken was talking about, it just changes direction, totally speeds up. The scream at the end, there's some good gang vocals in this. It's a fast song, and I love that sort of kind of sloppy sound to it. I really like it, and I'm wondering why didn't they? Do you guys know why they didn't have Mark sing it? Was it done before he was there, or was it just?
Although Dennis was the original singer, right? So
yeah, Dennis was.
There's something to it.
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, I love the song. It's not my favorite on the album, but it's definitely what a way to start it. And 7 minutes. There's a lot of heavy songs on this album. A lot of and you're right. I don't want to get into the last song yet. It's kind of just different, but there's some great stuff on here, but I think this is the way to start the album, and I think it's really cool. And it just has such a different sound than the rest of the album. And also too, the drums, on this track are just, it's phenomenal. But the whole album, it's got a great drum sound to it. I mean, and to what Ken said about it being more of a basic, it's about like an anthem for thrash metal. Definitely. I mean, these guys are all under 20. I know if I was in that band at that time, 1987, I would have been 16. That's what I would have wanted to do, write a song like this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And again, I agree with you guys. I like the song. Like, don't get me wrong. It's my least favorite of all the songs on the album, but it's still a great song.
It's a little amateurish, don't you think?
Yeah.
It comes across a little amateurish, I find, but
yeah. But I mean, again, they're young guys, right? So I
Of
mean,
Yeah.
course.
it's not crazy, right? But it's still a good song. But okay,
Mhm.
so that leads us into track number two, "Evil Priest." Jim, why don't you take this one?
Oh, one of my favorite tracks on the album. I mean, you leave Thrashers, which is amazing. This has that killer guitar intro. This is another almost 5 minute song. First one being 7 minutes. And I mean, I think it's got kind of Mark's vocals on this sounds kind of Anthraxy.
Mhm.
From the Belladonna early albums. I'm talking like Disease and Among the Living, very much so. And it's got maybe has that little bit of a punk vibe to it. Maybe that's where I'm getting a little bit of the Anthrax sound to it. But around 118, it just kind of heats up and gets going, and that heavy drum beat takes off. Around 115, there's kind of a wicked kind of bass solo, which I like. Not really a solo, but you really notice it in there. And for 1987, when a lot of starting bands are starting to tune down their bass a bit, or it's going even unnoticed in a thrash song like this, it's kind of cool that they throw that in there. And I think this song here is a sign of the times to come for the next album and even Act Three, because it's a little bit different than the rest of the songs on the album. I find they have a little bit more. They kind of explore things a little bit differently. I find it's a really good journey. But yeah, I love this. I love this song. It's one of my favorites.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's one of the best tracks. I've said it before. I think it's a big upgrade with Mark. Like his voice is so
Yeah.
much more dynamic. I mean, you get some killer screams in this that you don't hear
Yeah.
on the first track, right? But just love that like opening riff. It's like the urgent riff to kick the song off. And I think Jim, you mentioned it. The drumming's off the charts.
Oh,
I mean, this is a 14-year-old. I still can't believe it, but good use of tempo changes. I mean, it's a pretty fast song, but it slows down at times and it hits like blistering speed
yeah.
at other times. I mean, and Rob and Gus are really good on guitar, right? The riffs and the solos are fantastic. And just the songwriting, right? These are good, well-written songs. And again, for such a bunch of young guys, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, and some good time changes too that
Yeah.
appear in this song and other songs, right, where the
Oh,
riffs
yeah.
suddenly change, and yeah, so I think it's a great one. Ken, your thoughts?
Yeah, the guitar tone's really crisp, and I like how it's laced with all this like hostility, so it's really aggressive sounding. Probably because of the fact that there are lyrics on the songs about an evil priest. So again, it's pretty basic but I can see why they would find this kind of subject matter very interesting. Um, for me, I think the best part is from the 2 minute mark right into the 3 minute mark. There's like a galloping chug that's
Yes.
it just kicks ass, and it just takes you like it's great. I mean, the only thing about Mark, I like the screams and I like his singing. And it's probably just the production thing, but I find it a little echoey at times. But it's probably just the way the recordings for the times.
Or the
Um,
budget, right? They
but the
probably,
Yeah.
budget, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You could tell. I mean, I know a lot of people love the echoey thing. I don't. For me personally, I don't. I think it's okay, but I find it hampers the song just a tad bit. That's my only one complaint. But otherwise, this is a really good song. You can't
Yeah.
get anything better than this.
And that bass, that bass thing I was talking about, sort of a bit of a bass line, leads into that between 1.5 and 2 minute guitar
Right.
chug that just takes the song off. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost like it sets it up. It's the coolest thing, and I love it. It's awesome. Yeah, agree.
I mean, the bass is going to play a key part on a couple songs that are
Yeah.
still to come as well, right? Like it's
Yep.
just again just smart songwriting, right? To have the bass up there and giving the bass player the free will to actually do some bass lines. Okay, so track three, voracious souls. I'm probably still saying that wrong, but Ken, you could correct me on the song title and then
No,
run
you
with
got
it.
it. Voracious Souls, you got it.
Voracious souls. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, this song is pretty dark. I kind of like it. Again, the lyrics get really kind of crazy. The drumming is great. I love how the drums kind of teed up at the beginning, and then the chug starts. It's a little bit slower here, but there's a lot of groove. What I've noticed is a lot of like groovy intensity, and this is the first time you start to see it in their sounds. That oh yeah, they're into kind of like groovy metal, and which is great. And then you get that at the 150 mark that you get like this tempo. It picks up speed, and it's catchy all the way through. And I love the lyrics like men without anguish, men without fear, men choose to ride the earth, evil confrontation years. It's so great. And I love the way that Mark sings that part. Like it's just best part of the song for me, that kind of catchy lyric. But yeah, this is a really good song too. Like it's really, really good.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this one as well. I think it's a monster track, and it's still on the set list quite regularly. I've heard
Ah,
it.
Yeah.
cool.
But I liked it because it has like a real drumming like intro, right? Like they let them
Yep.
loose to kick off the track. And I think you said it, Ken, but that main riff is just like menacing and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like, and this is probably the most like infectious chorus like on the album, right? Like it
Yeah, yeah.
actually slows down, and Mark uses his cleaner voice, which is a great contrast for the rest of the album and the rest of the song. But yeah, I noted that same thing, right? Like at 150 mark, just the fast riffing that kicks off at that point. Some great solos by Rob. Yeah, I think it's a master. Like I think a track like this, to me, revealed what was to come over
Mhm.
the next two albums. To be
Yep.
able to slow it down and use melody and not be afraid to break out of the path set in the first two songs. But
And the groove and adding the
yeah,
groove.
yeah, and yeah. Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, I find some of the guitars have kind of a bit of a priest sound to it from time to time throughout the song. I
Mm,
really like how at 310 it starts to slow down a little bit, but just for not very long, and then it just takes off again into another really fast-paced solo. And the solos on this are amazing. And yeah, this is definitely another, like each song just seems to be for me getting better and better and better. And
mm.
this one, it's just amazing. But yeah, I get sort of a bit of, there's parts of it where I'd be like, hey, that sounds like maybe a tipped in Downing kind of playoff, and just parts of it. I mean, obviously they're not thrash, but this just has that sort of groove to me with the guitar work, that it's got a little bit of a pre sound to it from time to time. But yeah, I love this song. This song's one of the top ones on the album.
Yep. Cool. All right. So stay ready, Jim, because you will take the lead on the next track. Kill is one.
Oh man, like Kill is One. What a great name for a song. It's
Mhm.
another great song. I mean, and I love the repeat chorus of Kill as One. I just love that. It's just awesome. And the high pitched screams are great.
Yeah.
And you've got heavy vocals, especially at the halfway part of the song, or when they get into and he gets into the chorus, but they're heavy, but they're really, really clear. It's really cool. You know, and it just, I love the momentum. I mean, this is a fast thrash song, and it has a wicked guitar intro. So, I mean, I think this is probably one of the fastest ones on the album. I love it. It's just, again, I mean, you got Voracious Souls, and you're thinking, okay, where are we going to go from here? And this one just kind of picks up from where that one left off. I really, really like it. And I find that the album's gaining momentum, and really with this song kind of continues up towards, you know, is it going to plateau? You don't know at this point. It's song number 4. I just love it.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, now this is the where I was going to mention. If you listen at the 3 minute mark, it's maybe like 10 seconds. There's a galloping chug that's very much Mad Butcher from Destruction. You listen to
Ah,
it. I played them back. I played it back to back, and it's like, yeah, it's very much. It has the same kind of chug to it. And I'm like, so I thought maybe they lifted it, but then I realized these albums came out like a month apart. So
mm-hmm.
chances are it's probably just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of interesting because I love Matt Butcher and I know the song very well. So I picked it out immediately. It's like 10 seconds, but you can pick it out, but it's great. It's so smart. But like this is a really really good song. I mean that it's another guy like thrash anthem. So basically they're kind of writing about this idea of a group of individuals who kill together. So it's great. You can read into it any way you want, but I think it's great. So when they're provoked, they go to violence, which makes sense for kids like getting into that kind of violent way of thinking as a gang. You could even think that maybe they are get like a street gang. I don't know. But yeah, this is a really good song too because you get like at the start, like that first 40 seconds, that galloping chug it sets the tone for the whole album, or at least for the song. And Mark is great. Those screams are fantastic. I love his screams all throughout this song. It's so great. This is such a great song.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like a shredding monster, and yeah, Mark's range is fantastic. It's like early, like some of those screams will give like early Halford a run
Yeah.
for his money, right? It's like what is that, like dog whistle level at times. It's yeah, no, I really like Mark on this thing, but at the same time, it's like relentless, and it's a thrasher, but there's also it's catchy and memorable at the same time, right? So I think that's really good. The band's so tight on this one.
Mhm.
Again, given their age, is just stunning. The riffs are fantastic, but it's like at about the 3.5 minute mark, the whole thing, the rest of the song, right out to the 5 minutes, pretty much turns into like a riff and solo like festival, right? Like it's so good. I love the way the whole thing ends, and like at one point, I think there's like a rocket or something that takes off
Yeah, that's right.
during the solo as well, right? Like it's just really cool. Um, okay,
But you know what though, Bill?
yeah,
You hit it on the head. I think musically, for a bunch of young kind of teenagers, this is a maturely musical album, more so than even the lyrics. Is you guys have both brought up, like especially with song number one, but musically, I picture them having not as much time. Obviously, they're starting out. They probably don't have that much studio time. So this is like a quick rip and go type thing, but it is so well put together. And the music is so much more mature, like beyond their years, I think.
yeah. Well, that sets us up perfectly then. If we're going to talk about musically to the next track, the ultraviolence, a whopping 10-minute instrumental. Ken, why don't you start here?
Yeah, now this is where it gets really interesting because I noted every minute the tempo changes. So like I feel like the song is segmented every minute, like the way it starts out. So you get like the tempo change at the first minute, like the little bit of the instrumental start. And then when you get into the first minute, the guitars they transition into like this really incredible chug, and then it goes in the second minute, and the pace slows down, and then you get the third minute, you get that kind of whammy guitar going on, and in the fourth minute, the drums kind of take the lead, and then you get the heavy chug into the fifth minute, and it just goes on and on and on until you get right up to this like frantic bit up into the 8 minute mark, where I'm hearing like hit the lights vibes from Metallica. You definitely hear it there. And then in the 9 minute mark, they get to the galloping chug right up into the end. And like I'm hearing bits of Megadeth, I hear little bits of Metallica. So you could see that they could match their maturity level as musicians. They could
Yeah.
easily match what, and I kind of think the song is telling them, is saying that, guys, we're here. We can easily match you guys with intensity, speed, and the virtuosity with the guitars. That's how I kind of sort of took the song apart. But
Yeah.
it's a great song. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like some people may not appreciate a 10-minute instrumental, but I absolutely do, right? And again, that opening riff is just like ingrained in my brain. Like last time I saw them, just recently, they played the Ultraviolence,
Oh wow.
a slightly shorter version of it, not the full
Okay.
10 minutes, but yeah, it was so cool to hear that. I guess it gives Mark a little break from vocal duties, right? But yeah, it's still intense. The band, again, we talked about it, so incredibly tight and precise. I mean, there's some real technical features to the music on this track. And they just pull it off. I mean, and the main thing here, and you kind of hit on it, Ken, the riffs are coming out of everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like it's such an amazing riff-driven song. And then speaking of the bass, there's some great like bass rumblings and bass lines filtering all throughout this song. The drumming's fantastic. Yeah, and then that opening riff closes it out at the end. It just a thing of beauty, in my opinion, a complete masterpiece. And again, it shows that these are young guys willing to take a chance, right? Like Metallica wasn't doing a 10-minute instrumental on Kill 'Em All.
No. Yeah.
No, like Exodus wasn't doing it.
No.
Slayer wasn't doing it. So yeah, I think again, it just shows that these guys weren't scared to do something a little different. So, Jim, why don't you weigh in?
Oh yeah, I mean, first with everything you guys said, 100% right, and the balls to maybe go to the record company and want to put this on here, because I can imagine that probably I'm thinking some record producers probably sitting
Yeah.
there saying like, no way, 10-minute friggin' instrumental. But I think that if you ask, like, I'd love to hear some of the guitar players like Hammett, Kirk Hammett, Dave Mustaine, you know, some of these, Kerry King even, and what they thought of this when they heard it. But I bet you they were like, wow, we needed to do something like this, especially on their first album. I mean, you know, we complain from time to time that sometimes the instrumentals are like a buck 20, you know, they're not very long, they're just a little maybe acoustic thing with a bit of drum or whatever, and you're like, man, I really wish they would walk around a little bit. And this is 10 minutes long, and I think oh no, it shows off what they can do, and I think it's great. And I'm glad it's there. I'm glad it's 10 minutes long. And I would love, you know, I just think, I bet you a lot of big name players out there sit there and probably when they first heard this, you know, go like, wow, these guys really went for it. And I just think it's great. And Billy, with you saying that they played it live, maybe a bit more of a scaled down version, you know, that's really that's a testament to the fact that, you know, they obviously, this song's really important to them.
Yeah. And unlike our conversation about Sepultura, they don't like shy away from the old material. Like that's
No,
another thing I love about Death Angel. You're gonna get something from most albums. I mean, they're usually an opener, so you're not gonna make they probably can't even hit one from every single album, but you're gonna get every period pretty well represented. So that's another thing I like about them, right? They don't hide away from any chunk of their career.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so we all got our chance on that, right?
yeah,
Ken, we
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, yeah. So then that moves to track number 6, Mistress of Pain. One of the shorter tracks, one of the shorter real tracks, Mistress of Pain. Jim, why don't you start here?
well, I think this one and the next one are probably my two favorites. Like I've talked about how I like the first, like I've liked everything up until now, so I guess. But I mean, Mistress of Pain, that again, that heavy, wicked guitar riff opener. This is another heavy track. It's just, I wrote fast, fast, fast. And I get, again, a bit of an Anthrax vibe mixed with a Megadeth vibe, especially in the guitars and the Anthrax vibe through the vocals a bit. I kind of get that feeling, but it's, and the screams
Yeah.
again in this one are great. I mean, I love this. The name of the song is Wicked. I love the names of their songs, like, you know, Mistress of Pain, Thrashers, Evil Priest. There's no, this is what it is. So here you go. You know, like it's in your face. This is what it is. And now we're gonna just go for it. And this is just another killer track. I mean, you've left this 10-minute and 33 instrumental that probably, like I say, the record producers there shitting his pants, going like, oh my God, we can't put this on an album. And then they come out with something like this. I mean, they could have easily added 2 5-minute songs in there, and maybe they would have just been, you know, so and so good compared to the wicked you know, the wicked instrumental. But they come out of this with another, and I like the fact it's a shorter song because it just rips right in. So it kind of adds with the missing vocals from the instrumental and kind of plays off of each other. I really like that too.
Hmm. Well, it's funny you raised it earlier that somebody new to the band would think Death Angel's a death metal band, but you look
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
album titles on this thing, and you're definitely gonna think it's a death metal
that's
band.
right.
But so Ken, over to you.
Well, I like the song. I for the aggression and for the style of the music, but it's a little bit immature, like because these are
Hmm.
kids talking about bondage and sadomasochism. I mean, that's basically she uses discipline over her slaves. She uses whips and chains and gets pleasure from it. That's basically what the song's about. So it's kind of funny that these kids are writing about this kind of stuff. So not that I'm saying it's bad. I mean, even if I was, I'm sure at a teenager we'd all be thinking about sex to some degree or something like that. I don't know how they equate sex to the bondage stuff, but it's just interesting. It's interesting. I just find it interesting. But but yeah, I do see the Anthrax. I There are some Anthrax comparisons. I could see Joey singing a song like this
Yeah.
in the same kind of manner in the same style. So you're right, Jim. I That's a really good point to come out with for that. But Mark is great here. Like the screams are
Oh,
great all the way through. The steady chug. I like the fact that the vocals in the chug are really what stand out the most for a simple song. For a song that's kind of simple, but obviously they get their point across really quick.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, you know me, I'm not a big lyrics guy, so that stuff doesn't bother me in any way. I didn't even know it was about that, so I have no idea. So that doesn't impact my view. So I enjoy it. I mean, another massive opening riff
yeah.
again. It's just like a vicious. This thing's at a speed of 12 out of 10, right? Like it's relentless. And we talked about Mark and his screams, but this is where he shows his range because early in the song
Yes.
he's also extra aggressive and angry on the vocals, right? So
Mhm.
we actually see him through his lower end and his extreme high end on this track as well. So I also think it's another like just the drum and guitar sound is so massive on this track. I often wonder, like, maybe I should have raised it with the last song, but like, how close to the maximum? How close are they playing to their max capabilities? Like on
Mhm.
this album, right? Like, are they maximum stretched or like? Because again, just the speed and the intensity, but then to still have the chops, to have the interesting riffs and all the changes, right? Like again, I don't know. I mean, not to beat on that over and over, but again, their age, it's mind-boggling. But yeah, I love this track. Like I'm kind of with Jim. Like it ends with a bang on
Yeah.
these final two here.
Yeah.
But then speaking of the final two, that brings us to track number 7, Final Death. Ken, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. Again, it follows what you got in Mistress of Pain.
Yeah.
With their lyrics, this is like a typical thrash metal trope. You can look it up because I've read a lot of people talking about this. Like, they're talking about suffering. They're talking about references to death and darkness. It has it all on the song, which is funny. But they 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 set music to it that really works. Because Mark singing is bang on here. I think this is one of his better songs. Vocal delivery for me on this song in particular. But he's got that really great scream at the 240 mark.
Yeah.
His vocals get stronger even towards the last 3 minutes, I think. And then there's like a bit of a doomy passage at like the
Mm.
430 mark that I kind of like, and it's mid tempo, and it's really really cool because then Mark throws in adds that high pitched scream in there, and it just really makes the song go crazy. I also get a lot of Kill 'Em All vibes here. You can hear it, like it's a lot of Kill 'Em All, which is fine. You're going to hear a lot of Metallica and Exodus because this is a second wave band. So of
Mhm.
course they've been listening to those bands, so they kind of it migrates into their music. It can't be helped. But this is a great song too.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually the only reference I did note is out of all the songs was a Kill 'Em All vibe
Mhm,
on this track. But yeah,
mhm.
I mean, my two favorite parts, like you hit on it, like with Mark again, Ken, like that scream at the halfway point and at the
Yeah,
end, it's just fantastic. There's like a great sort of there's some really interesting bass work kind of coming in and out at the 5 minute mark. That's really quite cool. But for me, this one's kind of what you said about number six is what I feel that it's not quite as complex and is a little
mhm,
more straightforward, but still executed perfectly. So it's not a bother for me. But yeah, I love it, and probably the way the album should have ended. But we'll
Hmm.
save that for track number eight. Jim, over to you.
go
Well,
ahead.
I love this song. Probably my favorite on the album. I like it. It's like a minute and 12 before the vocals even got in. So you've got
Yeah.
a lot going on. And I love the fact that this is the second longest, I think, Mark vocal song compared to Thrasher's, which wasn't him. So, and I think that's really, really cool because, it's got I love the fact that the doomy parts of it, and I know Ken, you like a lot of Doom. So when I was writing I kind of get a bit of a merciful fate and I slash King Diamond because not that it sounds like that because it doesn't, but it has that sort of vibe to it where kind of a bit more of a darker vibe to it where I could see this even being sort of and I put King Diamond in there because of the plots that go on in his albums. I could see them doing a whole album sort of behind this a little bit and having
Mhm.
that kind of as a bit of a soundtrack. It kind of has that feel to me, like more of a darker soundtrack. I mean, it's a thrash masterpiece. I wrote down a thrash masterpiece. So if you were to have a thrash song as part of a darker movie kind of ominous part to it, this would be the song for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, we could definitely tell you like that one, Jim. You
Oh
were
yeah.
super enthusiastic describing that one, so it's great. I love it. So that brings us to track number eight. This is truly the shortest
Yeah.
track on the album, just under 2 minutes. Jim, what are your thoughts here?
I don't really have any. I don't quite understand it, to be honest with you. I'm sure they're young guys and they wanted to have some fun. I just I don't know. I think maybe another song. We're only at eight here, and we had a really long instrumental. I just think, I don't even really know what to say about it. It kind of doesn't really do anything for me, and it's just kind of like this is one of the albums where it just kind of ends off like they should have ended it off at Final Death, or they should have
Yeah.
had like ending it off at Final Death would have been great for me. I mean, these earlier first thrash albums for thrash bands were usually a lot shorter, and but I think this was just maybe a fun thing they were doing. And in all fairness, they are just kids, so hey, whatever. It doesn't detract from this album for me, as you'll see in in my my top nine albums. But it just I don't think I think it's unneeded, and I don't know. I don't want to insult it, but on the same token, it really doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't really get it. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
again, like it doesn't hurt the album for me, but
no,
like, and just that like gibberish talk at the end, like I don't know, like it's that's where like Adam Sandler got the Billy Madison character from or something that talks gibberish. I don't know, like it's crazy. But like yeah, then that music at the beginning, like I'm sure it's just me overthinking it. But Ken, is that not like does any of that the funky part sound like the old Batman?
yes,
A little
Song, or is
bit.
that
Yeah.
just me? I don't know. I replayed it
No,
again.
there's bits of it. There's
Yeah, I
bits of
don't know.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you didn't really name the song though, Billy. So the song is
Oh
IPFS,
yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
which stands for no, there's a reason for this. It stands for the Infernal Possession for Satan. That's what the song. That's the actual song title.
What
So
is
I
it? Say
oh,
don't.
it again.
So the Infernal Possession for Satan.
Oh.
That is what the song represents. Which I don't understand why, because it's like, okay, what did you guys get out of that? With the only exception, I don't mind the kind of the acoustic guitar at the beginning. Right? There's a callback to Exodus No Love to me. I feel a little bit, but you're right. Like the funky groove combo, I don't get that. And the gibberish, like what did someone says? There's this weird thing that he says, something groove stick or bang my groove stick. It's like, what the hell did? It's like I don't get that part of it. So okay, so I actually asked a buddy of mine because I thought maybe they were throwing in some Tagalog slang. So because one of my good buddies, he's Filipino.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I just asked him, just listen to the end and tell me, because I want to know. Because I kind of thought there was, but he says no. He goes, no, this is just all gibberish. I'm like, all right, that's all I need to. That's all I need to know. Because I thought maybe they were speaking Tagalog, which would make sense that they would throw that Filipino language in there.
No, that would make sense. But yeah,
like a word or two, just like a dirty word.
Yeah.
But no, he says it's not. So you're right, Billy. It's just gibberish.
It's just gibberish. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so now I feel better. I didn't insult any of the any languages or anything like that. But okay, so yeah, so that ends the album. So 45 minutes. I mean you probably didn't need that last 2 minutes, but what the hell, 43, 45. So yeah, so anything you guys want to add before we go to the ranking here?
Oh, this shows their maturity for young guys. So I think it should be considered a thrash metal, like a classic landmark album for the time, just based on their ages and the fact of how we've all like in every song we've picked out elements that are so impressive for kids all under 20 essentially. So yeah, this is a great album. They deserve all the credit for this album. And also, because not even that, but just the fact that they're Filipino. It's so great that you got like this diverse, like family knitted or family oriented group of kids, all like related. And it's great. The only sad thing for me is like it's just too bad that both Gus and Dennis are pretty much out of the music industry now, which is kind of sad. But but yeah, this is a great album.
And I think that Death Angel, I know they had a bit of a hiatus there, but I really think that these guys are massively important to the metal and thrash movement, and that they really shouldn't be opening like that as much. I know they're trying to get out there, but I think these guys are wicked headliners. And, we're comparing them to the big four. And in my mind, these guys are in my big eight. And, and they're in with they're a more recent band compared to a lot of those bands who were on their third or getting ready to release their fourth albums, or and I think that says a lot. I mean, these guys, this is a 10 out of 10 album, and this is like a desert island top 10 albums for me. I'd want to bring it with me just on the musicianship alone, and it's just it's that good of an album. And I mean, there is even like if you track 8. Normally, if it was an album, like if this was a Megadeth album, I'd be crapping on track 8, really going, what the hell were they, But it doesn't matter because, that instrumental, I think, really makes up, it's a quarter of the album in time, but it is such an important piece to this album, and I think that's what really, really kind of it stands out for me musically on this album.
Yep. And I guess to the point about them opening for other bands, I mean, they are opening for bands like, Testament and Creator. And so, I mean, I guess it's not all negative, I guess. But yeah, I hear you. Like, I would love to see, because that's the problem. Like, generally speaking, and they don't have short songs. So, they're not playing 2-3 minute songs. So you generally get 5 or 6 Death Angel songs at a show, and that's about it, unfortunately. So yeah, I would love to see them do like a headlining tour.
And they're going to open for Wasp on the tour, the North American tour here, which is kind of a weird mismatch for me.
True.
it's interesting because it's like, I'm like, don't get me wrong, I want to see Wasp especially do the first album, Blackie Lawless, do it in its entirety, but I thought this was such a bonus. Like, I've got a couple of family members in Ontario who are like, Jimmy, would you go see the show? I would go see Death Angel in a second. You can't miss the opening act. It's going to be maybe, depending on how Blackie is or whatever. I mean, I know Wasp is going to put on a great show. That's because they're going to bring out some of the props and it's going to be really cool. But I think these guys, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a different genre, and I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. These guys are going to, and the sad thing is, like you say, they're going to be on for maybe 45 minutes or an hour, and I think they should play longer, but I think it's going to be, I don't know. I'd like to see these guys as much as I'd like to see Wasp. It would be 50-50 for me to, oh, wow, that was a great, opening act. Death Angel's the opening act. Like, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the last few times I saw Death Angel, I honestly thought they were the best band of the night. I thought they were better than Exodus and Testament. I thought they were better than Sepultura. I thought they were better than Creator. I don't know. I mean, I think what'll say Blackie is it's quite different. But
Yeah.
like, they're gonna go in there and they're just gonna. There's no way Wasp could ever match the intensity.
No.
But again, like, that's not them. But like, I do think maybe he could have chose a different opener that's not going to, like,
Upstage
I don't want to say show them up, but like, their live show is pretty incredible, and Blackie's
Yeah.
going to be standing there, barely moving, and Mark's going to be running around like a madman. But again, totally different styles, right? So I think that'll keep it separate. But yeah, I know Blackie doesn't like to be upstage, but
No.
in my eyes, I'm sure I'll prefer Death Angel, but that's me.
And remember, I think they went on tour with Metallica, didn't they? Metallica upstaged, I think, for the Last Command. They opened up for Wasp during the Canadian portion of there, and from what I heard, they were pissed because Metallica brought a whole different fan base to the show and totally ripped it apart. I mean, they outplayed them, and I mean, that was during Wasp's heyday.
Yeah, but Metallica back then, this is
Yeah.
a band out to destroy everyone. That was their motto, right? Like,
Yeah.
you get on stage, you play, you destroy. That's the bottom line. So maybe Blackie wasn't thinking, but I don't know, Blackie, like, maybe they just didn't think at the time when that tour happened. But I think thinking about it now, though, I think Blackie's a lot. I've heard him in a lot of recent interviews. I heard the Jimmy K one, and he was pretty cool. Like, he was pretty straightforward, and I think he's at a point in his life where I think he knows. I think he's comfortable with his status in the metal genre. So I don't think it's going to be like, oh, I can't have these guys upstage me. I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, I've heard him even on Eddie Trunk's show a couple of times. He's a really straightforward dude. He gets knocked for a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I think he knows his place. He knows where he's going. So I don't think he has a problem with Death Angel opening for them. I don't see it.
Well, it's happening, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So-
but I'm saying I just don't see how there's going to be like an issue between the two bands personally. But
I personally don't even think they're a mix, right? I think the diehard Wasp fans are not going to dig Death Angel, but
yeah. I mean, the last time I saw Death Angel in 2017, it was a good show. I had a good time. They're great. They even if they're like on an opening slot, they go out there and they give it their all. So you have to give them credit for that,
Yeah, I just mean your average like metal fan, right? Like traditional metal is not going to like, and Death Angel live is playing even faster than they are on the album.
Yeah.
Right? So
true.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see that. I totally forgot about that until Jim just brought it up. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the crowds
dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll report back on that after we see the show.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so let's move to the ranking. So 9 albums. Who wants to kick this off, Jim or Ken?
I'll go.
Okay.
Cool.
So, like, this is interesting. So I flip-flopped in a bunch of albums because I hadn't heard a few in a while. So I had to maybe go back and just spin a few just to get myself back into the mindset. So like, no matter where you put any of these albums, none of them are bad by any means to me. All of them are good. So even if I have one at 1 and 1 at 9, it's just you have to put them somewhere, right? You have
Yep.
to stick them somewhere in your ranking. But I have Human Side at number 9. Humanicide. I gave it a spin this week. It's pretty good. Like there's a lot of really good songs on it. The Pack, I Came for Blood,
Yeah.
Alive and Screaming. Yeah, it's a good solid album. I would have to give it another spin because I bought it, listened to it, and then I just moved on to other things. But I think it's a good album. Number 8, I had The Dream Calls for Blood, 2013. This is a solid album too. The cover. I actually like the cover song "Heaven and Hell." I don't mind it. I like the fact that they wanted to cover a Ronnie James Dio song. So that's kind of, and Black Sabbath, of course. So I kind of like it for that. Number 7, I have Relentless Retribution, which was the first time that they had some lineup changes. 2010, pretty solid album though. Like Claws in Deep, this Hate, Absence of Light. There's a lot of good songs on it. Number 6, I put The Art of Dying, which was the comeback album, but I didn't quite think it. I thought it was okay, but it was just missing something for me. Thicker Than Blood was all right. Of course, mine, Gus Pepper wasn't on this album, which is too bad. He didn't come back to join them, but I think it's okay. Number 5, Frolic Through the Park, Through the Park. I don't know. I wanted to put this higher because I bought it when it came out and I liked it. For some reason, I like the song "Bored." That song just I love that song. It's such a great song. But I don't know. Thinking about it, like yeah, there's a lot of groove and funk influences. It's definitely not nowhere near the first album, so it got pushed back in my ranking a bit. But that's only because the other 4 I thought were just a tad better. So at number 4, I have The Evil Divide, which I really like that album, and I know Jim loves that album cover. It's a really good cover, and it's a strong album. The Moth, Father of Lies, Hell to Pay. It's great. There's a lot of really strong songs in that album. And number 3, I'm putting Killing Season. It's one of my favorite modern albums from them. I find all the songs really, really catchy, like Sonic Beatdown, Buried Alive, When Worlds Collide. There's a lot of good groove on it. The songs are memorable, and I love Mark's vocals are great on this album. Now, the last 2 is where I struggled because I like the ultraviolence, and I would like to put it at number 1, but it went at number 2. I think it's great. It shows to me that for a first time band, they, this is incredible for kids, like for teenagers. But I kind of feel like Act 3 is where they really find themselves. Yeah, it's a bit more mature, less aggressive, but I find the songs are really well written. And I know Billy, you said you're a fan of like Veil of Deception and some of the ballady type songs, which are really great. They're so well written, and Mark sings them so well. So I went with that as my number 1, and it's too bad that they didn't follow up after Act 3 for another 10 years. But that's a really, really solid album.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think we have 2 exact matches.
Okay.
But then there's maybe 1 or 2 that couldn't be any more different.
Okay. Fair enough. Hey.
Which is good. It keeps it
Yeah.
interesting. Jim, over to you.
Yeah, we had a couple of the same too, starting with number 9, Humanicide. I came for blood. It's a good song, but I found this album, unfortunately, I thought it was kind of boring. It didn't have a lot of meat to it, and I don't know. I really hope they come out with something new, and it's going to be really, really good. My number 7 is Relentless Retribution. Or number 8, sorry, 2010. Claws in So Deep's a great song off that. Number 7 is The Dream Calls for Blood. Good album. I like it. 2013. My number 6 is Frolic Through the Park, so that fell back a little farther for me. I don't know. It was such a change. I like, again, too, I like tweaking change. I don't like full frontal change. So I found that a little bit too much change. There's, they do, I think they do Cold Gin on that as a cover,
Yeah.
but like 13 tracks. It's a little bit long in the tooth as well for a second thrash album. But I mean, it's pretty good. My number 5, I'm going with The Evil Divide. One of my favorite albums, and I mean, but there's obviously other. I mean, it's number 5. It's one of my favorite by them. I mean, Hatred United, United Hate with Andreas from Sepultura guest on it. I mean, The Moth, Cause for Alarm, Father of Lies. This album is really what I kind of pictured would have been their most latest release. So I kind of was disappointed with Humanicide that it came out kind of flat for me anyways. Number 4, excuse me, I'm going with Killing Season, When Worlds Collide. Great album. Number 3, their comeback album, and The Art of Dying, 5 Steps to Freedom. This is a wicked album, and I thought it was a wicked return to form. My number 2 is Act 3. Love that album. Probably one of my, and my number 1's Ultraviolence. But I got to be honest, just like what you said, Ken, I would have liked to seen something, maybe 2 or 3 in between, because you're going from 1990 to 2004. Easily could have been 3 or 4 or 5 albums in there. I love the fact that they brought out The Art of Dying, and it was such a slamming album. Like, it was like, okay, these guys are back. These guys mean business. But I would have liked to seen what they put out in that sort of that hollow space there in between, because Act 3, I mean, has been probably still even today their most popular album of all time. And they kind of, it's weird because they went out on top. They didn't go out, but they stopped on top, and then they picked up at it. 14 years later, a lot has changed. I mean, we went through total genre changes, and a lot of bands changed members, including this band, and I just really would have liked to seen what would have came next. But Ultraviolence my favorite, Act 3, but it could be swapped around, just like you Ken, because they're both amazing albums.
Cool. Okay, so there's no need for me to preface the exact same comment because I was going to. Yeah, like my 9 and 8 and 7, I don't mind them, right? This is not like some of the catalog, almost every catalog we've ranked. Like the Last Place album was pretty bad. Right? It was a complete miss. So for me, that's not the case here. But I think my 9 and particularly 8 is where I'm going to vary with you guys drastically.
Okay.
But so anyways, for me, the number 9 is The Art of Dying from 2004, I think it was. For me, like, there's 2 albums I dislike the production on. And so this is one, and my number 8. But again, Art of Dying, it's not terrible. But like, I just don't think that there's a bit of my first impression, and Ken, you may have hit it. Like, it's a good album, but like coming off the Act 3, I had huge expectations, and it just wasn't met here. So maybe it's a bit psychological with me, but there's some great songs, and so, but at 55 minutes, they could have cut 1 or 2 out tracks out, but I don't know. Me. So my number 8, and so this is probably our biggest difference, is Killing Season. So just not a favorite of mine. Like, it's got some really great strong songs, but it's not fully consistent. There's some that just don't click with me, right? But as I said, no bad albums. Like, I go back to it and listen to it every now and then. Number 7, I think I matched with you guys a few times. This was one, Relentless Retribution, 2010. This one's kind of interesting. Like for me, it's a bit of a mix of like Act Three, like we get a ballad. And interestingly, it's Rob who's singing the ballad on this song, the Volcanic, and he does co-lead vocals on Claws In So Deep. But for me, this album verges in a bit into nu metal at times, and even the more traditional songs, like something like A Truce or A River of Rapture, it tends to lean a bit more melodic than the more aggressive Death Angel. I like number 6 for me is Frolic Through the Park. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a letdown after the ultraviolence. There's things I like, there's things I don't like. I will say, like, here as a young kid, hearing Bored, which was their video, stopped me from buying the album. Now, I did buy it like later on, like years, decades ago, but much later when I was more mature, and I learned to appreciate the album a little bit more. But I just think it was too far in the experimental like side and different ideas, and some worked well and some didn't work well, and so yeah, I mean that's where it ends up for me. So then I put number 5 a little higher than you guys, I guess, Humanicide. I mean, I'll have to say, I'll be honest, because if I'm gonna give it a knock, it will be that, like, and we talked about this on a few other bands. The catalog's starting to sound a bit samey, and so that's a fair criticism of the album. I think they'll need to change it up. But I actually like this album, right? Like I think it's a good modern album. I love most of the tracks. Like the opener is a complete thrash monster. I love Divine. Like it's just a very heavy album too. And how the hell does Mark still sound this good all these years later? But so yeah, I don't know. For me, I like it. I'll acknowledge it's a bit samey, and some would say they could be getting a bit stale, but I enjoy the album actually. And so then my number 4, I still have more of the newer stuff up higher. So I have The Dream Calls for Blood in 2013. I mean, here I find again Death Angels just doing what they do best. This one tends to be more pure thrash metal. One of their more aggressive albums in the modern age, and just love Rob and Ted. They just have some vicious riffs and some great solos on this one. Number 3 for me, The Evil Divide. That's my favorite modern era Death Angel album. Love the album artwork. But yeah, I just think the strongest songwriting, the closest thing that reminds me to the ultraviolence. Love Moth, the Moth. I mean, they play live all the time. I think Jim, you said it. The Hatred United with Orange Kisser, so that's cool. And then so we come to number 2 and number 1. I struggled with it. I could probably say it's a tie, but since I had to rank it, I went Act 3. Now I'm thinking maybe Act 3 should be number 1, but whatever. So Act 3, I mean, you guys, I love everything. I love the ballad, A Room with a and I don't know, do you guys know, like I didn't realize this, but like I was reading up on the album like maybe like 2 months ago, and I didn't realize that A Room with the View is mostly Rob singing that song. Did you guys know that?
I knew. Yeah, that I knew.
I thought it was Mark that was doing the vocals on that, but so yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, I personally think that's the best ballad by any thrash band ever, right? It's just such mature, like it's fantastic. Seemingly Endless Time, what a monster song. But I also love the funk tracks on here, right? There's like 2 or 3 of them that are just outstanding. I love the album beginning to end. So that's why I'm thinking maybe that should have been number 1, but I went ultraviolence, but I easily could be flipped around.
Same here. That's the problem I had.
Yeah.
I had the same problem. I was like, ultraviolence number 1, act 3 number 2, and I was flipping it back and forth, and I just, oh guys, screw it, I'm just gonna pick one.
I'd be willing to bet almost every Death Angel fan would find themselves with the same top 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think that's fair. That's fair.
Definitely.
All right, cool. So before we sort of close out, any last comments you guys want to make on Death Angel or anything else?
No, I'm pretty good with it.
I just think an underrated band for what they've brought to I still think they need to be higher up and closer to that big four, and I'm hoping for a new album, and it's going to be really, really cool, and it maybe bring back a little bit of the heavy thrash roots again, and that's what I want. I want a good banger of an album.
Let's have them knock off Anthrax.
Maybe.
Sorry. Uh, Ken, anything on your end?
He doesn't want to talk now.
You're good, Ken? Is Ken frozen or does he just not want to talk?
Ken, no.
Or he's doing a great acting job. Like he's one of those like those people doing statues like for money who doesn't move. I think Ken's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I was like, hey, hey. So
Oh.
weird.
He thought he pissed you off.
It was so funny. It was right as I knocked Anthrax. You just froze with this look on
Damn
your face.
you, Billy. Yeah, that was weird. That was very weird. Like I was like, you guys were frozen. I was talking. I was like, what's going on here?
Oh, you
I was,
saw we were frozen on your count? Okay, well, who knows?
yeah. I was
Okay.
talking and you guys were like just it was weird.
Oh, you were frozen on our cameras, and
Yeah.
Jim and
Yeah,
I
so
were
weird.
live.
All right,
Oh, well.
well, we're back. We're back. So
So yeah, so I think I was saying, Ken, anything you wanted to add? You may have added it, but nobody heard it.
no, I was just going to say that from what I've been hearing, that the new Anthrax album is supposed to be like somewhat ultra heavy. So I'm very curious if that's the truth. That's what they're saying. That's what's coming out of their camp. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be the case or not. But we'll find out.
No, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Like I said to you guys, I like the last couple Anthrax albums.
Same here. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think that brings us here to an end to this episode of Thrashcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And so for those in Canada, you'll certainly know this, but July 1st is Canada Day. So in honor of Canada Day, we've selected a Canadian band in the thrash genre. So we had some debate. Could it be Voivod? Could it be, I don't know, Annihilator? But so we landed on Razor. So we don't hear Razor talked about all that much. So I think that's pretty cool. They deserve some credit. We're going to tackle, I mean, I don't know, arguably their most famous album, Evil Invaders, released back in, what would that have been, 85, 86?
85. Yeah.
85. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be the topic next week. So stay, please tune in for that. And on that note, so happy Canada Day to our Canadian followers. And a few days later, of course, happy Independence Day for everyone in the US. So yeah, that wraps it for tonight. Thanks everyone for listening, and have a good night. And Jim and Ken, thanks as always for
you bet.
doing such a great job.
Have a good night, everybody.